Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Crawl, and today I'm going to be mansplaining to you about different types of NPCs. But before I get started, could you just hit that like button for me? Thanks. I wanted to talk more about the concept of the NPC and what some of the different common types of them are, because I've already spoken about the brainwashing of the masses that turns people into NPCs and how to know you are dealing with one at the beginning of the channel. So make sure you saw that first video linked below, and since then I've just been constantly wanting to do a follow-up video diving even deeper into the concept of the NPC and what different types there are. And I just did a video before this one on how most people exist in what I call the slave class and are living in modern day slavery. And I do mean most people. And when I say that, I mean like literally 99% of them. That means everyone except for that elite 1%. So why is it that so many people are living in slavery? Because they are NPCs. They are literally programmed and hardwired for it. As I described in these two aforementioned videos, all of our social conditioning and cultural programming has been engineered to brainwash us into being NPC worker drones for the government, leaving the few of us out here who actually have humanity feeling like we are living in some kind of zombie movie. Except they don't look like zombies. They look more like regular humans. So I guess it's more of an invasion of the body snatchers type situation. But anyways, in my other video about NPCs, I talk about how to detect them. But what is equally more important is knowing which whole groups of people are all NPCs, as there are some types of people out there who it is safe to stereotype as such. And honestly, when I was younger, I would resist stereotyping and making those kinds of judgments, only to later find out that it was a big mistake. That stereotypes exist for a reason, because they are mostly true. And those people really are all the same. No humanity, just a bunch of mindless fucking zombie NPCs. Zombies that look like real live humans. The zombie analogy makes me remember about 10 years ago when first thinking robots like Sophia were coming out, and I was talking about this new AI phenomenon with someone online, and I said I was looking very forward to having conversations with AI robots about intellectual things such as philosophy. And he said, well, it won't be better than talking to a human. It will be like talking to an intelligent zombie. And I said in reply, well, that is actually a step above talking to a human, which is like talking to an unintelligent zombie. Then the theory of NPCs came out, and everything started to make sense. All of these people are just NPCs, especially certain groups of people, including but not limited to the following. First and foremost, of course, I've got to talk about the corporate drones out there, such as clerical workers, as I talk about in my male stereotypes video linked below. They don't even know why they are doing all the things they do at work. Literally, they are just going through the motions every day mechanically, like a cog in the machine that they are. Then there's the wokesters, of course. I have to mention them up front too, who literally only speak to virtue signal and recite some sort of political narrative that they think is going to make them look more politically correct than the next person. Then you got your traditional yes men. These are people who agree with anything that is said, often parroting it back to you or saying something generic and positive. On the other side of that coin, there are the disagreeable high conflict types. These are the opposite of yes men. These people just disagree no matter what is said. So whatever you say or anyone says, they're going to contest it. Even if they actually do agree, they will try to find a way to debate it because that is just what they are programmed to do. So often they will start their sentences by saying something like, well, maybe XYZ, or well, did you ever think of X? Or something like that. Basically throwing out whatever counter argument they can, even if it's just guesswork. No matter what is said, they are wired to and believe it is their duty to present the counter argument to every statement. So remember that there are two types of NPCs when it comes to agreeability profiles. There's the overly agreeable yes men, and then the overly disagreeable high conflict types. All right, so you want to watch out for those and make sure that you are testing people whenever you're suspicious that they might be these types. All right, with the yes men, think of something that they have got to disagree with and say it and see if they agree. With the disagreeable types, think of something that you know they would agree with and see if they disagree with you. It's literally that easy to get these people to show themselves. I do it all the time. Then there's the cyborgs. That is, people who have technology attached to them at all times and basically live and breathe through technology, spending way too much time online and existing more in the online world than in the real world. These types are kinds who won't take their Bluetooth out or ever even set their phone down, even when they are not using it and doing something in which it would be impolite, because they aren't human. They're cyborgs, and their technology is literally wired into their body. That was just how they were engineered and programmed. Then you have pop culture, all of pop culture, and everyone in it. In fact, we might as well lump in everyone who gets too heavily influenced by it, which includes anyone who watches too much TV or gets too much screen time, such as those who spend hours at a time laying around scrolling, but those people are also probably already classified as cyborgs. And speaking of pop culture, where does this bullshit come from? That leads me to the next category, actors and other pop culture celebs. They are all NPCs. You can tell because that is what they are trained for professionally. They are all playing a character and reciting lines at all times. It is what they do. It is their job. So you really shouldn't be listening to actors when they are talking about politics and trying to inform or influence people. And all of this includes anyone who isn't actually famous but who still acts like it, like all those people on social media who call themselves a quote-unquote influencer, which Generation Z actually sees as being the best type of celebrity. Not being famous for having some entertaining talent or skill, but being famous for being famous. And notice how I don't call myself an influencer, even though I'm trying to positively influence you men out there. I don't call myself that because that's just a narcissistic term. Like, think about the type of person who would call themselves an influencer as an actual title. And worse yet, it's also very generic too. Like, influencing what? Influencing how? Influencing people in what way? You know, I mean, it's basically like labeling yourself an NPC on a whole new level. Like, you want to be famous for being an NPC and just like, regurgitating common scripts and narratives and telling people what they want to hear. Wait a minute. Now a word from our sponsor, me. Do you value the ability to use words to do things such as compose meaningful sentences and speak the truth? Did you know that here in this great country of America, you have the right to free speech? And so do I. And if you don't support people who are exercising that right, then you are probably a fascist dictator. Just like the YouTube algorithm, which stifles the content of patriotic people like me who dare to speak out against the gynocentric, matriarchal, feminist regime that has been aggressively taking over our country. And if YouTube isn't going to promote my content and is going to suppress it instead, I can only rely upon you, my viewers, to show your support. If you don't support free speech, we will stop having it. Which is exactly what is already happening with YouTube videos that censor themselves getting promoted and explicit ones like mine getting shadow banned. So, if you like listening to me use my free speech, make sure to press like and share and donate whatever you can with the PayPal link below. Don't make me work for free and get censored like a fucking communist. And with the presidential election coming up, your donations can literally be used to fund my campaign to get into the White House and abolish the matriarchy once and for all. Literally. Who would you rather have as your president? An old limp-dick liberal leftist cuck with noodly arms? Who's probably never been in a real fight in his life?
or a good old-fashioned, misogynistic, patriarchal man's man like me, with balls big enough to stand up to women, and who you can count on to speak out against them and tell it like it is. Fight the feminazi dictatorship. Spread the message of masculinism. Keep my work alive. And now, back to our regularly scheduled content.
Then the next category are New Agers. They all think that they are more conscious than everyone, but it is just narcissism. They aren't. They are less conscious. In fact, they are all just NPCs reciting scripts that they call mantras and affirmations and positive self-talk and other New Age jargon that is all just positive psychology and self-hypnosis into narcissistic delusions of grandeur. They aren't higher consciousness than everyone. They are just programmed to think that they are by the other bullshit gurus who have programmed them. And this includes anyone and everyone who ever talks about the law of attraction, which is so popular right now. And the people who you will hear spouting off about it are just NPCs who have no understanding of philosophy or physics and quantum mechanics and consciousness and all of the things that they claim to and are talking about. It is all just a bunch of bullshit gobbledygook. But then there's the next type of NPCs, everyone's favorite customer service representatives, especially on the phone with those 1-800 numbers that you call. Everything that they say to you is part of a script they've been programmed with and have repeated hundreds or thousands of times. On the phone, you can't even tell which of these are AI bots or not because the human NPCs sound just like the bots. So I oftentimes have to ask whether I'm talking to a real person or not, and when they tell me that I am, I'm not actually always convinced. And speaking of these types, then there's the marketers and salespeople, especially, again, the ones you talk to on the phone, the telemarketers and such. All of these people are all NPCs for the same reasons as I just stated. And then there's medical professionals. Just like with clerical work, most people in the medical field are just in a line of work that seems to turn them into NPCs. It seems like all the patients in the waiting rooms at medical facilities are too. Everyone is just sitting there on their phones, or if not, then they are just staring off in space, like they're not even conscious. No one is ever reading, which is a distinctly human activity that requires some level of consciousness and intelligence that obviously they don't have. And the ones who bring their kids with them and force them to just sit there doing nothing for, however long, they don't bring books for their kids or anything for their kids to do either, except play on their phone and get programmed and wired into cyborgs. And then the next category are transportation professionals. I'm not sure what it is about this job. Again, maybe it's like clerical work, but have you noticed that they all seem like NPCs? And it seems like most of the customers on public transport are too. They are all, again, just sitting there staring off into space like an unplugged robot. Just like people in waiting rooms. And it's just so creepy to me how a human can sit there and stare straight ahead for like an entire half hour, 45 minutes or more. There are some buses that go for a long time, and I've seen people sitting there just staring into space like an unplugged robot for so long that I almost want to go up to them and poke them. And be like, are you a real person? And then there are old people. The older you get, the more hardwired you get, and thus the more stubborn you get, and the more prone you become to repeating the same old scripts and lines over and over, which is why old people are oftentimes repeating the same story over line for line. And eventually they start to mumble and stutter and spatter out like a broken down old robot from a sci-fi movie. And if I ever get like that, just fucking kill me. It's not natural, and man isn't meant to continue to exist in such a state, and it's probably, a very unpleasant experience for anyone who might have once been, conscious part of that brain. And then one of the last categories is literally most of the people on social media, depending on how much they use it and how they use it and such. But I'm sure you can already tell by talking to them that most people on there aren't even a real person, but are just NPCs or chatbots, or who knows what the fuck they are and what might be wrong with them if they are human at all. And then last but not least, almost every single fucking woman out there is also an NPC. Women are extremely conformist creatures and susceptible to social pressures and programming more than men are. So they get very hardwired and brainwashed by everything that could possibly influence them. The only way to tell if a woman possesses true humanity is if she cares about men's rights. And as for everyone else, well, if they don't fit into one of these categories, but you still suspect they might be an NPC and want to find out for sure, look for a lack of self-awareness, a lack of free will, ask them if they have an inner dialogue, as studies show that they do not. And like I said in the first video, the biggest dead giveaway is when they stick to scripted lines and constantly repeat the same shit over and over and over. Only a fucking NPC would do that. And so, as I said in the beginning, in my estimates, 99% of people out there aren't actually people at all. For what does it take to be a person? Humanity. And do most people possess that? Well, that's a topic I actually explored in a video from my psychology channel linked below, so check that out. But the bottom line is that those of us who are not NPCs, the few of us that there are out there, we need to unite and put our heads together so that we can raise our consciousness and transcend the matrix and stay away from all of those NPCs in it who are trying to just bring us down to their unconscious robotic existence.
That concludes this video. Thanks for listening. I hope I mansplained that good enough for you. If you like what you heard, please click the like button. And if you feel you gained some value from this video and would like to give some back, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support helps fund me doing this work and fight the good fight for men like you. If you are ready to take the red pill and wake up from the matrix, well then, I have the perfect book for you. The Bible of Esoteric Knowledge is a super concise, dense, info-packed philosophy textbook, written in the same verse format as the Bible, but combining multiple different, highly esoteric philosophies such as Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, shamanism, ancient paganism, and a special balance between theoretical physics and metaphysics, along with some special bonus info on the cryptic secrets of sexuality and death. This book will stimulate your intellectual philosopher's mind like no other, especially since it's a lot shorter and easier to read than most philosophy books made up entirely of run-on sentences and never-ending paragraphs, and, can be quite boring and exhaustive. Full of all the most fascinating mystical secrets of the universe, gratify your inner geek and quench your thirst for meaning with the Bible of Esoteric Knowledge. Get your copy at the link below for a special sale price today. Enlightenment has never been so easy.